Hello, I'm Super Orange Cat here today to very simply rank from the worst to the best the episodes of season 26 of South Park. There were a grand total of only 6 episodes a season, like last season, and I'm going to go over some of my thoughts about each episode. But if you want a more thorough, in detail look at each episode, go back to my channel and look up all the different reviews I had for these episodes, which are up right now. So, without further ado, my least favorite episode of this season was the ChatGPT episode known as Deep Learning. And a big thing about this episode that I ended up disliking, well, not as much disliking as much as of the 6 episodes, this is the one I forgot the most jokes about. I recall the whole concept of everyone using ChatGPT to cheat on stuff, and the whole fact that the ending was completely written by ChatGPT itself, that being a little gimmick they threw in there. But there really that were that many haha lines in this whole episode. If I had to say there's a highlight, it really is just the whole part where like Stan kept Otto using ChatGPT and Wendy thought she was talking to him. There was a whole point where she was confessing a personal moment to him through text, but he didn't know what it was because he wasn't actually reading the text. And it's like, oh, about the boats in Switzerland, like stuff like that, and him having to improvise on the spot. I thought was kind of funny because again, the whole fact that this AI thing, although it's definitely getting better and better, there's still issues. Like in this episode, you had the ending where Cartman referred to Stan as a Jew instead of Kyle, like little bits like that. Outside of that, it was just very not much stuck out outside of those little moments. And I had to go back and read a synopsis to really remember some of these things too. And that's why it's my dead last sixth favorite episode of season 26. My fifth favorite episode is Japanese Toilet. Now, this episode was more of an issue of wasted potential. Like, you have this whole gag of, okay, this is not the first episode with Randy and toilets. If you remember the episode where he tried to outcrap Bono, which is an instant classic. And I felt like it'd been funny if they made a little reference to that. But all we got was just kind of this, like, weird thing where we kind of went nowhere about, oh, just Randy being Randy, wasting 10 grand on a Japanese toilet. And then like open up this like possible plot line of, oh, the toilet paper companies went after Jimmy because he pointed out how bad they were. And then like instead of this turning into like a weird little hilarious plot line which you could just sprinkle throughout the rest of the season, you just kind of get this ending like, no, they're cool, Japanese toilets are stupid, toilet paper good. And again, I thought it was a thing where you still had a couple of these funny moments, like you had that specifically that music that was playing when people would use the Japanese toilet. It was just one of those moments that it oddly enough gets funnier the more they use it because just how absurd it was. And outside of that, there weren't that many great moments. There weren't that many bad moments either. I think I remember giving this one like a 7 out of 10. It's a perfectly functional episode. And that's it. And that's why it's only fifth out of 6 episodes this season. My fourth favorite episode is Spring Break. This episode, when I first watched it, I kind of disliked a little bit because of how really silly and bland the B plot of it was. But again, the A plot really, more I watched into it, I ended up liking because again, we don't see much about Rick and Mr. Garrison's relationship. And you see these little moments here and there, and the fact that you have Mr. Garrison getting over being president and being addicted to the whole ranting, raving, addicted to the whole just running for it, just this attention, this like abilities to rant and rave about things. And it was very strongly compared to someone who's addicted to clubbing or addicted to going to strip clubs. And I thought they did a great job making that comparison. But the B plot where it's like Randy just ranting about like they're just making him like a character of like, the boys are being emasculated and just like making fun of that and really had nothing to say about it. And they just threw in like an Andrew Tate reference in there for some reason, even though it made no sense to the like it didn't even like contribute at all. It felt like they're like, okay, we're gonna add Andrew Tate in here. How do we do it? I don't know. Just have him bring women into the house or have start a party or something. And again, that's just something that I thought was just very thrown in there. It's the weakest B plot line of the season and one of the weaker B plot lines of the series. The more I come to think about it, because it really just felt like it was 100% there just to burn 7-8 minutes of runtime at the end of the day. But the A plot I thought was really solid, and that's why it's not towards the bottom, it's towards the middle, 4th out of 6 in my ratings for the season. Now, my third favorite episode is the episode that led off the season, that episode being entitled Cupid Ye. Now, this was an episode about Kanye West. This was the first episode of the season. Historically, the first episode of the season always runs into these little issues with, oh, we're going to cover every single thing that happened in the offseason. But I thought this episode did a decent job of just focusing on one or two things, specifically about like Cartman's Cupid like persona going all Kanye West. And the first 2/3 were kind of bland with, oh, remember when Kanye said this a couple months ago? Remember when he said that? Remember that tweet he made? And then it just went off the rails at the end. And that's something South Park has done an amazing job of throughout its run. To have this something normal happens, and then it just goes somewhere absolutely insane. Like the best example of this is an episode that many people cite as the best of the series, Scott Tenorman Must Die, where you have, oh, Cartman's sour about this ninth grader who's taking advantage of his stupidity. Oh, and Cartman's stupid because he's choreographing that he's going to get this horse to bite his wiener off. But come on, Stan Kyle's going to not let him do that. But Cartman fully planned on it. And the whole real plot was not just simply to get his money back, but to make Scott Tenorman eat his own parents. Something just so insane, out of nowhere, that South Park executes flawlessly from time to time. And this episode did a great job of that too. But again, it's third instead of first because it was a very slow start to that point where Cupid E went off the rails, was unmedicated, and tried to make everyone think that Kyle had control of Hollywood. It's just the type of thing you end up coming to like. But at the end of the day, and I'll go to my second favorite episode of the season, and that was another episode I definitely raved much a lot about, and that was the second episode of the season, that being the Worldwide Privacy Tour. Now, if you recall, this was the episode about the Prince of Canada, Prince Harry, and his wife Meghan Markle, moving across the street from Kyle and ranting and raving, a phrase I've used a lot in this review, about wanting to be left alone, quite ironically. He also had the whole B plot of the agency Cumhammer that helped build archetypes of different students, different people, where one of the archetypes was always acting like a victim. And this was a great episode. Very, very solid. I love the portrayal of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. I love how they absolutely ripped into him, especially how they ripped into Meghan Markle. In particular, I thought that was an amazingly well done, well thought out critique. And also, really just the whole B plot of Butters, like, oh, I'm getting rebranded, and letting that him being an a-hole, which led to him being beat up by Bebe. I thought that was a nice little build up to that, too. And this was, again, just a really good, solid, nice episode, and a good way to really, really follow up what was a decent episode in Cupid Ye. And it's one of those things, I've made a couple videos about it, and I think I made one Rumble exclusive about, like, the response that the Royals had to it, which was hilarious because they threatened to sue, even though they admitted they never watched the episode. It was this whole thing, which I thought was hilarious. Now, going on to the best episode of season 26, in the opinion of this one orange cat, and that was the episode Dickenbosch Hot Dogs. This was an absolute stunner of an episode, in my opinion, especially the more I thought about it, because it's just perfect encapsulation of multiple characters. You have Butters, who's this whole stick your nose down to the pavement, work hard, like high moralistic ethic. And you think, oh, Cartman's taking advantage of him because Cartman's lazy, and he's taking advantage of Butters. But to have this ending where Butters takes advantage, and is able to take control of the situation by offering to buy the hot dog stand, which became very successful, and offering the house back to Leanne Cartman, and have Cartman just absolutely lose it. Because there's one thing that, because of Cartman being narcissistic, he's like, it's me, I did it, I want my Deacon Bosch, over and over again, was just absolutely amazing. It was just really, it's just one of those things, like, just, and also you had the whole joke of the whole, everyone, not willing to work these days. Like, you have, like, the redneck who complains about, my job's being taken, and the first thing he asks for is, like, oh, how much mental health leave do I get? Like, stuff like that, I thought was a nice, hilarious critique. And it's one of those, it's probably the one episode of the season where I could point to every little thing about it and said that it was done fairly well. It was like a 9 out of 10 episode. Probably the one episode I will truly remember past this season. And again, it's not like it was really a slim pickings because, again, this was a 6-episode season. And I really wish there were more. Like, there's this whole controversy about Paramount and Viacom, like, fighting over the show because of the whole, Paramount Plus gets the South Park specials, while Viacom only gets stick with 6 episodes, and having to pay an insane amount of money just for the rights to air the new episodes, only for them to be on streaming the next day. It just was this whole thing. But again, overall, I thought it was a fairly decent season. I'm not going to say this was really among the best of all time. It's definitely better than the lowest seasons, which were, again, like the real hardcore serialization seasons we had like 7-8 years ago. But what do you guys think? What was your favorite episode of the season? Leave your comments, leave your opinions down below. I am Super Orange Cat, and that is all.